Do you know what it means to be listening to this right now? It means that somewhere in your journey you have come into a space where you're ready to change and shift your reality. That's not an accident. That's a frequency match. And so if you were waiting for a sign to start really, really, really fulfilling the life you want and to make a immediate transformation into the next version of you, it's now. It's more important than ever for us to start taking up our own real estate in our own mind and our own hearts. And we really, really need to learn to use discernment and listen to our own inner voice about what it is compelling you to do or try. There has never been a more important time for us to claim our own power. And as cliche as that sounds, or as scary as that sounds, or as intangible as that sounds, let's put it into perspective. If you've been observing the world in the last few years, you know it's shifting dramatically. It's shifting quickly. And the scales are being tipped in quite extreme ways. And this is not fear-mongering at all, because we really have to be empowered in the story. The future is exciting, but we need to be able to harness it. We need to put our hands on that steering wheel, particularly with our own journey. If you notice, in the last few years, the world has become quite divisive. Structures are falling down. The old rules just don't seem to apply anymore. And you can take that across politics, obviously. You can take that across health. You can take that across gender, sexuality, just circumstances of life, people just not really wanting to play the old game anymore. So there's that aspect of it. There's also this aspect of AI is here, and we're going to be having to use more and more discernment about what we want to believe to be true in our reality. And for it to have complete authenticity, we need to know ourselves. We need to know which direction we want to play in, which direction we want to follow. And it's going to be hard. It's going to be challenging. And I think it's also going to be now or never. As I record this, ChatGPT has it's just blown up in the last few months. It's reaching and becoming more accessible to everybody. And because the speed of which it is being accessed, the speed in which we are all tempted to use it and be addicted to it, myself included, I'm not anti-AI at this point in time. I think we have a responsibility to use it and almost educate it by our own positive thoughts and opinions. So whatever we're plugging into it, we are also cultivating that cauldron of intelligence. And so we can't always just leave it to the people who have the most to gain from the input they put into it. But without that getting too crazy, I feel the biggest assets we all have is our own story. I feel as humans, the one thing we can never use up as a resource is our creative potential. We are all creators. And another fundamental aspect that we all need to maintain is connection to ourselves and others. And so that will never get old, that will never get replicated. And so we need to know what it is that we want to anchor our story into. It will affect jobs. And so now or never, it's the time to step outside the matrix, step outside that machine, step outside that role or that job or that life or that situation that you know has been niggling you for a while, that you're not fulfilled. And now the speed train is here to almost push you, nudge you further along your destined path. And it starts with you, and it starts with making that choice to do so. And I know that you no longer can fit into that box, that you are dying to break free of it, even if you have the trepidation of fear of what the unknown will give you. I do not claim to have all the answers for you. You have those. It's just your job to uncover them. And how do we do that? We need to learn to get quiet. We need to learn to hear our own voice, our inner voice. We need to have a finger on the pulse of the collective, but we need to listen how we are responding to that pulse. And I share tools that have helped me along the way to manage that energy, manage that noise, and turn the volume up on what my heart wants to say. We are always on the precipice of change. The next minute is undecided. The next minute hasn't happened yet. But history does have a habit of repeating itself when we are unconscious to some of our programming and our belief systems. And I invite you to start uncovering what that means for you and how you want to now transform your life. You're not here by accident. And if you're hearing this message, listen to your gut right now. Listen to that intuition that is downloading now. What is it telling you? Because this is what it's all about. This is this exact moment frequency of every decision you make in your life. One or two things is happening. One, you do not resonate at all with what I'm saying. Or you're resonating with some of it because parts of this that you're already considering, because that's why you're still listening to this message. So there's something in it for you, and maybe that's at the end of the line and you're like, interesting, move on. And then for some of you, there's a point where you're like, oh, should I believe this? Is this for me? I'm not sure. Could it be? Is this resonating? Because like we are always in that action mode. We want to make a decision to shut off or press play. And if you have a knowing that you're vibing with this, your decision will already be made, and trust that. Trust it enough to not second guess yourself, but trust it enough to embrace the unknown. There's moments in our life where we have to jump. We have to jump into the unknown. But the best part of that is that there's always an invisible net supporting you, catching you. So there's nothing to fear. Sometimes when we have to shift into the next version of ourselves, we're looking for some external support to show the way. And so that's a parallel journey, but ultimately you are in control of your own destiny and you are manifesting your own reality and you 100% know what is right for you. And that is all you can trust. And once you trust that, wow, you are unstoppable. And so there is nothing more addictive than pursuing your own purpose. No matter how big that dream is, when you get obsessed by pulling it apart and putting it together and building it and reconstructing it and tearing pieces away and adding pieces onto it, that lasts you your lifetime because it's never done. It's never finished. And it's just an opportunity and a vehicle for you to grow into your own story, a story that you then share and that then people emulate your journey for their own potential. And that's where change happens through the ripple effect. And so you do not need to be an expert on everyone else's life. You just need to be an expert on your own. And by consequence and by default, that is when the ripple effect happens. And that's all anyone can ask of you. And that's all you can ask of yourself is owning who you are. Because when you don't own who you are plugged into someone else's story. And that's where we kind of repeat those old patterns that we're so desperately trying to change. And trust me, you will never regret backing yourself. And so, again, jump. Take that leap of faith in you and see what magic happens. That's freedom. Create the freedom to live the life you want.